A community that knows itself takes care of itself. The stories of those who live in the Matsu borough are as varied as the people themselves. Some you have heard. Some perhaps you have not. This is Voices of the Matsu, bringing our stories to life.
Hi everyone, I'm your host, Emily Forstner. I'm excited to share with you the very first episode for Voices of the Matsu. This is a 2-year project with thanks to funding from the Matsu Health Foundation. Voices of the Matsu will showcase the stories we find throughout the Matsu, the place we call home. I came here 40 short years ago. As a young school teacher, still very green behind the ears, I think the term then was chichako. And like so many of us, I stayed. We've changed a lot. I don't think that's an understatement. We've changed a lot over the years, the Matsu and I. But in the most important ways, we haven't changed at all. We are a caring and kind community. We are good to each other. So once a month, I'll meet with members of the community and get to know them a little bit more. And have you, the listener, get to know them too. Today's story is told by Mary Jo Parks. Mary Jo has lived in the Matsu since 1977. She's volunteer extraordinaire. She's a teacher, a life coach. She's been given the key to the city of Palmer as a Citizen of the Year, and she's the founder of the Matsu Special Santa program. Her story today is about Santa's workshop. It's filled to the ceiling with black trash bags, stuffed animals that become members of the family, alarm clocks that change into thousands of dollars, and renewed hope.
A lady came in to volunteer one year. So she had the wish list and she was working with a friend and they went through our workshop, which is set up like a store. There's the dolls in one section and there's the baby toys in another and the winter coats in another and the books are in another section and even stocking stuffers are there. So they take their wish list and they walk around the workshop and put together the gifts for the child and their family members. Then they bring it up to the checkout section, and we call it quality control, and they're given a black trash bag. She comes up to the checkout area, and we're going through her things, and I handed her a black trash bag, and she opened it, and she went, "Oh, you gave me Christmas when I was a child." She remembered seeing the black trash bag in her home and realized that she had been a recipient. So it certainly brought tears to all of our eyes. Hi, this is Mary Jo Parks with the Matsu Special Santa program. I was in charge for over 22 years, and then I had a year of transition for some new leadership. And so they're now going into their 4th year where I'm not the CEO, Chief Elf Organizer.
Mary Jo is a teacher at Burchell High School in 1997 when she gets a phone call.
The borough mayor called me and said, I heard about a program in another state where they match a child in foster care with a Santa. Is that something we could do here?
She thinks about it for a minute. Her students at Burchell need to have jobs, and Mary Jo loves Christmas. She's a regular Cindy Lou Who. What better way to give back to the community than sharing the magic of Christmas with ribbons and bows and sugar plum fairies? So she says, sure, we can do that.
90 children were referred to us. We realized right away that there were more than just kids in foster care who needed help. And so we expanded it so that children in need would be able to get Christmas gifts. I learned early on that parents were going to have to bring their children with them, and I didn't want the kids to see the gifts, so we got black trash bags to put everything in. Yeah, it's become kind of one of our symbols. We have pictures of the ocean of black trash bags because we have over 3,600 kids that get gifts each year. It's over 1,000 families. things are very organized by, names and so on. And there's the black trash bag. So when parents come for pickup, we're able to go to the section where their number is and bring it out to them.
Mary Jo students convince her to change up how Special Santa runs. Instead of having children receive a list of choices, the students, she now calls them her ambassadors, decide that the children in need should be able to write their own lists.
The teenagers I was working with were kids who had a lot of needs. And they became very excited about this project and became my first ambassadors to go out and help me find people who would donate. So plus they gave me ideas that I hadn't thought of.
This is an important little fact to know. There are several other Special Santa programs around the nation. These programs have standard checklists for children to choose from. But because Mary Jo's students know firsthand what it means to need help, they switched it up for the Mat-Su. So the Mat-Su Special Santa program is personal.
They would talk to the families in need and get their lists. They blossomed. They liked the idea that kids could ask for whatever they wanted, not have to go from a shopping list. Each child is given a wish list to fill out for Santa, and it comes to the program, and then we try to match it up with what they're asking for. When I first did that, people were like, oh, kids are going to be so greedy. And it's just the opposite. Kids asked for things like combs, shampoo, deodorant, underwear. It was basic needs. We tried to match up the gifts with things like we asked them, what's your favorite color? So if they were asking for a truck, we tried to get them a blue truck or a red truck. So it became very personal, which I think is part of what has made it so successful and why the volunteers became so committed, because we knew that what we were doing went directly to that child. On one of the wish lists early on, a little girl asked for a stuffed giraffe. Well, we didn't have one, but a couple weeks later, the Toys for Tots arrived with 7 crates of stuffed animals. And sure enough, there was the giraffe. So we went back and found that wish list and called the mom and asked her to come back and gave her the giraffe. And she started to cry. And again, it's a stuffed animal giraffe. Not that big a deal, only it was. Her daughter had attachment disorder. And when she was born, she was given a giraffe. And that's her one thing that she hung on to. And she's now 3, and the giraffe was pretty worn out. So to get a new giraffe was just the perfect gift for this little girl. And again, the mom cried, we cried. It was a very moving moment.
Let's consider just the numbers for a moment. The program has grown from 90 children to over 3,600. For the sake of easy math, let's round that up to 4,000. Each child receives 3 to 4 gifts from their lists. 4,000 times 3. That's 12,000 gifts, organized and delivered in a month-long season. That takes a lot of elves.
In the workshop, it's very noisy. It's lots of chatter and lots of moving and lots of, I can do this or send me that. It's lots of volume, listening to the Christmas music that's on there. But maybe most of all, as I think about it, is people being greeted at the door and we say to them, welcome, Merry Christmas. We're glad you're here. The volunteers personally that have stayed with me are at least over 100. It takes approximately 700 volunteers during the actual season of putting the gifts together. And then there's the cadre of volunteers who are getting a feeling of accomplishment and love and being needed that has really enriched their lives and my life. I think most of all, I didn't know that the people that became my elves would become such close friends and people who championed the program in so many different ways. one lady that I often think about who she was in her mid 70s and having some mobility problems. And she came and wanted to volunteer. And so I have plenty of desk work. So I put her to work on it. And she told me at the end of the season that because of Special Santa, she didn't commit suicide that year. And you're like, I didn't know I could save a life in that way just by keeping the doors open to people to come help out. You know, one of the things I've learned about volunteering, why do people volunteer? Well, some of them just think it's because, it's because they're very good-hearted, but we all have a need to do something and to make our community better. And out of that also, you begin to realize that you have a need to be needed. And Special Santa is that perfect place where people came in and started getting involved, and they feel needed. I talk about, I didn't know when I started this, first of all, that it would ever get so big, but I didn't know how much people needed to give and to give back.
Starting in year 1, the inmates at Goose Creek Correctional Center pitch in and make toys for the Special Santa program. It isn't until a couple of years later, though, that Mary Jo has time to go out to the prison to meet these toy makers and personally tell them thank you.
And they said, you are helping our families. You know, I'm in prison. I can't do anything, but by making these toys, by doing something to help, it's directly helping my family as well. Again, who knew that you could get a prison to make toys for children, and you're helping the prisoners and you're helping the families? I think there's many stories like that out there where people might even only come in for one time and to volunteer, but that it lasts a lifetime for them of memories and lessons. There are some people out there who are very negative about this whole program. They said, oh, people are just coming, they're takers. And it's not that at all. A lot of people think, well, people will come all the time. They'll never buy Christmas gifts again. And again, it doesn't happen that way. Very rarely do people come more than 2 or 3 years. We help them through their struggles, and then they're able to be independent and even give back. One of the stories that I always like to tell is about a young man who was just 14, and he returned to Alaska with his mom, and he said, I knew we were always poor, but I didn't realize how poor. And he said, Christmas was always a struggle. It was never a happy time for us. But when I was 14, under the tree was a big black trash bag. And I don't remember what else was in the trash bag, but it was everything a kid my age wanted. But it especially gave me my alarm clock and my radio. And he goes on to talk about how the radio had 2 alarms and that he could play all the music he wanted. It even had a snooze button. He's now in his 40s. He has been donating to the program for at least the past 15 years, very generously. So I think that's part of the story about Special Santa, that kids who were given to grow up and decide to give back.
It might interest you to know that when Mary Jo says very generously, she means not hundreds, but thousands and thousands of dollars. And what would you think if I told you it's all anonymous?
The program is set up on people being anonymous. Nobody gets credit. Everybody respects that because, it's Santa. And Santa is anonymous. One of the things we started about year 10 is a grandmother has suggested to me, I think you should charge the families $1 per child. And I'm like, these are people in need. No, I don't think we should do that. But she convinced me to do it. So the next year I did it, and it was amazing what a positive effect it had on the program. People that would never come to us originally for help said, I can give back. And so therefore I'm going to ask for help. People would come in on pickup days with their pennies, their nickels, their dimes, and we'd say, no, you don't have to give us. No, I want to help too. It was amazing to realize, and for us as the volunteers, to see how these families also wanted to be part of it. They wanted to be able to give back as best they could. It just made it so much better for all of us. I think one of my most heartwarming stories, a young girl, 17, asked for winter fuel for her family to stay warm. Again, the chaos in the workshop, and we have all these volunteers coming in and the elves that are coordinating it. And so we have these books where the wish lists are. And the next page that opened up when this group of adults came in was the page where the girl was asking for heating oil. Again, not anything we could do, but the woman that saw this went, "We're doing that for you." She went home, got her community to come together, her neighborhood, and they provided heating oil for that family for the winter. I didn't know that we could help so many people. I also didn't know how generous people would be. We live in an amazing community that just wants to give and does give. We had kids ask for things like a saddle, and we're like, we don't do that. So we have a board that we put up of odd things people are asking for, and the next day there was the saddle. The mom that wrote talked about how her little 4-year-old had asked for a huge teddy bear, and we almost forgot to give it to her, but luckily we did. And she said, on the morning of Christmas, the little 4-year-old says, "Just what I wanted, a bear big enough to hold me." So that bear now, every night, she'd sit in it and read a book. One of my favorite stories is about a young man who received Christmas one year, and he came to school and he was walking taller. He was in a good mood. He was happy. And his friend said to him, "Hey, Johnny, what's happened?" And he said, "I got Christmas this year. I was able to buy myself some new clothes. I got some gifts. I got Christmas." Who knew what an impact that could have on a child? And, especially a teenager who now was walking taller. What a beautiful thing to get to do. The moral of the story is that people need to be needed and need to find a mission and know that they're valued. And so I think that Special Santa does that for definitely for the volunteers. I mean, they go away every year feeling loved and accomplished and exhausted. The parents that came in and got the gifts, they also felt that somebody cared, that their community cared. And what a miracle that is. A teenager came one year with her dad to help put together Christmas packages. And he had been on the front line of a very horrible situation that had happened here in our community in early December. And so he was feeling really down about our community. So he came in to help his daughter. And he said to me later, by putting together those presents, by putting together those packages and realizing that the community really gave to one another and that they were being so kind to each other, that he had renewed spirit in his community. And I often think of that moment when his daughter just said, "Come with me." What an impact it had on him that he could see the good in our community again. I just didn't know how touched I would be by these people and their lives and my life. So, and I think, last, I didn't know that by giving a gift at Christmas that we'd be to a child, that we'd be bringing a community together, because it really does. It's a community that comes together and wants to help and make a difference. And on Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, I think there's an extra special smile on a lot of people's faces. Because of the discord that's going on, people get caught up in the wrong things. And when you give them a mission, bringing a gift to a child at Christmas, helping families in need, all of that fades away. And they begin to say, "Oh, I can help in that way." That's far more important than a lot of other things. And I'm willing to step up and help, donate, whatever it might be on their part. And I think that they suddenly feel a warmth, and a reminder that we as a community are in this all together, and helping one another is really what we're about. I get an awful lot of credit, but the truth of the matter is, I just became one of those people who received so much more than you can ever imagine. You know, it's such a privilege to be a person who can just say I was part of it and that I made a difference. Of course, we all want to make a difference, but knowing that on such a personal level that we were making difference just really makes me feel very happy.
Well, Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Merry Christmas to you.
If you will, just imagine for a moment. Over a quarter of a century long, at least $2 million given in donations, over 3,000 volunteers working for 60,000 children to feel like they're cared for on Christmas morning, unwrapping presents, all from you. When Mary Jo started this program, she believed it was because people needed her help. But what she discovered is just the opposite. The greater need is in our need to give. I'm sorry, it's the phone. Hold on. Hello? The phone's for you. That's it for today's episode with Voices of the Mat-Su. Special thanks goes out to Ellen Newfer, Carrie Bolding, Lena Ware, and my daughters, Katie and Tess, for expertise and guidance. If you have a story to share or know of someone who does, contact us at voices@bigcabbageradio.org. Until next time, it's been nice getting to know each other a little bit better. Thanks for listening. Stay good out there.
This was Voices of the Mat-Su, sharing stories told by those who live in the Mat-Su borough. To revisit this and past stories, go to bigcabbageradio.org. This project is funded by a grant from the Mat-Su Health Foundation and is produced by Emily Forstner for Big Cabbage Radio. The views expressed in Voices of the Mat-Su do not represent the views of Big Cabbage Radio or the Mat-Su Health Foundation. Comments or questions about this show may be sent to voices@bigcabbageradio.org.